In this video, we're going to be breaking down the 5 free agents that made an impact on the NBA through free agency and turned the league upside down. Tonight, do me a favor, lock the door, hide the women and children. NBA Sports Talk is live now. Praise the Lord, everyone. Welcome to NBA Sports Talk, the third episode of this live stream show that's talking NBA sports with the fans from the fans' perspective. And so if you're watching this evening, let me know on YouTube where you're watching me from. Give me a hashtag Team Live in the chat. And if you're watching the replay of this episode, give me a hashtag Team Replay in the comment section. And man, what a free agency we have been having this past week from different free agents like Fred VanVleet going to Houston, Kyrie Irving going back to Dallas, Dante DiVincenzo now a New York Knick. Man, the free agency frenzy has definitely been on fire. But you know, NBA fans, I've been thinking about who is the 5 NBA players that went to free agency and turned the league upside down by leaving one team and going to another. And I begin to think about this, and as I begin to think about it, the names begin to come to me, and I said, hey, this would be a great discussion to have for our third episode on who are 5 NBA players who have turned the league upside down, impacting them by coming to a new team. And when I talk about impacting the league, we're talking about going to that new team and taking them to another level, either deep into the playoffs, winning MVPs, or ultimately winning an NBA championship. And so I began to think about these individuals. And so tonight, that's what we're going to get into. So I want you to, get your 5 individuals that you're thinking about. Join me in the chat and let me know, because we're going to go from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. So as we go to each one, I want you in the chat as you're watching me on live here, or if you're in the comment section watching the show, in the comment section, give me your number 5, give me your number 4, down to number 1. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and fire up the stream deck and get into who are the 5 NBA free agents over time who have turned the league upside down by signing with a new team and impacting the league by them being with a new team. Who are the top 5? Well, man, I should have thought about having a drum roll. Next time when we do another top 5 or top 10, we're definitely gonna have to get a drum roll. But number 5 is, let's get this over here. Come on. There we go. Number 5, Steve Nash. If you remember, Steve had left the Dallas Mavericks. He had been to the Western Conference Finals with Dirk Nowitzki. They had a pretty good, solid team, but that team had been taken over by Mark Cuban. And from his assessment, he felt Steve Nash had now started to get to a point where they needed to get younger, and they felt like he was eventually going to trail off and not be the same Steve Nash he had been for the Dallas Mavericks. And so he elected to allow Steve Nash to test free agency. And when Phoenix came a knocking, he didn't try to keep Steve. And so, as you know, Steve Nash went to the Phoenix Suns. Now, how did he impact the league? How did he turn the league upside down? I want you to think about this for a moment. Steve Nash, a point guard. Up to that point, there had been no point guard like Steve Nash who would win multiple MVPs back to back. There had not been a point guard who did that. There had not been a point guard who had took their team either to the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference, not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 times. And when it was all said and done, he probably had his best career. His prime career was with Phoenix and how he impacted the league. And eventually he has now been inducted as a Hall of Famer. And so he is my number 5 that has impacted the league through free agency. He's my number 5. And so when you look at this year's free agency class, who is going to be the Steve Nash that's going to take their team deep into the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference Finals? Is it going to be a Chris Middleton from the Milwaukee Bucks who resigned? Is it going to be a Kyrie Irving who resigned with the Dallas Mavericks? Or is it going to be a Fred VanVleet who is now signed with the Houston Rockets? Which of these 3 can be the Steve Nash in 2023-2024 season? He's my number 5. Up to that point, no point guard had done this to win back-to-back MVPs and to go to 3 Western Conference Finals. And if you remember when they were playing the San Antonio Spurs during one of the Western Conference Finals, I think it was like Game 4 or Game 5, and Robert Horry had ended up doing this dirty play, a hip check on Steve Nash, and as a result, I think it was Amari Stoudemire and I think Boris Diaw, they end up coming onto the court. Not that they were coming on the court for the purpose to try to retaliate. They came on the court for the concern of their player, their teammate, but because their foot had stepped onto the court, they end up being suspended for Game 5, and then ultimately the momentum switched back to San Antonio because Phoenix had won Game 4 in San Antonio, and San Antonio ended up taking 5 and 6 and end up winning the series and then end up going on to the NBA Finals. But I just thought about the impact that this point guard had on the league. Not 1 MVP, but 2 MVPs. Now, of course, there is a man called Steph Curry. There is a man, Steph Curry, who's definitely has done some of these same things that Steve, but he's doing it with the same team. And so I had to give some love to Mr. Steve Nash. Who is your number 5 this evening? That 5th player that you feel has impacted the league? Let me know in the chat as I recognize my good friend, Mr. James Bush, joining me this morning. Man, let's see. What a day. Tonight here on NBA Sports Talk, we're talking about the 5 best players who have impacted the NBA league, turned the league upside down. James, who's your number 5? Let us know. All right, so that's number 5. Who is number 4? Man, I tell you, I need a drum roll. This one here is a dark horse. This one here, I believe, is one that probably no one would have picked. But I saw a recent interview on The Pivot with Ryan Clark, and they were interviewing Udonis Haslem. And he began to tell the story about how LeBron, Chris, all came to the Miami Heat, with that big celebration they had, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. And Miami and them, they were hyped. They were ready. They were ready to win these multiple championships. But he said something, I think it was Ryan Clark or it was UD, who said something interesting. During that celebration, Udonis Haslem was not in the building. He wasn't in the building. He actually was watching it at home. And when he saw that they were coming, because he was a free agent himself, he had basically, in his mind, felt that the Miami Heat were going to move on from him. And he had an offer on the table, which I believe was from the Denver Nuggets for over about $35 million. And he was ready to leave. And so his agent calls him and asks him where he's at. And he says, hey, I'm outside of the arena. I'm going to go talk to Pat Riley and to just thank him for the opportunity, for him giving him an opportunity to play in the league. He was an undrafted player. And, he had won a title with Wade and Shaq. And he felt it was time to move on. But as the story goes, he felt like, hey, look, there's no way they're going to match. So his agent says, don't go in the building. Don't go in the building. He has a conversation with Pat Riley and those, I guess, Mickey Arrow still. And so ultimately calls Udonis back. He finds out that LeBron, Chris, and Wade all took pay cuts so that the Heat could offer him $20 million to stay with the Heat. And because Dwayne Wade vouched for him to stay, he felt like LeBron didn't owe him anything, Bosh didn't owe him anything. And because Wade was in his corner, Wade made a case to say, if we are going to win championships, if this super team, if this big three is going to win a championship, we need Udonis Haslem. And to me, he is the number 4 free agent who has impacted the league, turned the league in the NBA upside down. You say, how did he do it? Because he played his role in helping the Heat to win 1 but 2 they ended up going to the championship the first year. And yes, they did lose to Dallas. Yes, they did. But he played his part. They won the next 2, and then they lost to San Antonio. 4 championship appearances. Dwayne Wade, the mayor of Wade County said, we need Udonis Haslem for this to happen. And so when you look overall, because of the Heat signing him, he's been to 2 additional NBA finals with Jimmy Butler, one in the bubble, and then just recently. Now you say, well, he's not playing. But when you look at teams that don't value veteran leadership, and it's all about younger players, sometimes younger players are on these teams and the vet is probably 1 or 2 years older than them. He has been a consistent veteran leader, the ultimate role player who was undrafted. And they go on to say, when they asked Eric Spoelstra, how do you define the culture of Miami Heat basketball? And they begin to throw some different things, professionalism, hard work, ethic, and everything. He said, all you got to do, Eric Spoelstra said, all you got to do is open a book. You'll see a picture of Udonis Haslem. That's how valuable, by him resigning with the Miami Heat, he's been. He's my number 4. He's my number 4. Steve Nash is my number 5. Udonis Haslem. And I know you would say, sometimes you, as Shaq says, you need the others. You need the others. You need a UD. Shaq went to Miami. A lot of people say, oh, it was, Dwayne Wade. It was Kerry Payton. It was Jason Williams. It was Anton Walker. When they won that first title, Udonis Haslem was there. He's my number 4. He's my number 4. He's not number 4. Would love to get to know who your number 5 and 4 is. Hey, if you're getting great value of this 3rd episode of NBA Sports Talk, we're talking about the 5 free agents who turned the NBA upside down by them resigning either with their same team or a different team. Click that like button for me. Click that like button and share this on your favorite social media platform. Before we get to number 3, James has a couple of comments here, so let's get to some comments. All right, so James says, It could be Murray with Denver, Jamal Murray. Hey, I like that. So Jamal Murray, that's a great one. So you go on to say number 5 for you would be, yeah, Jamal Murray's your number 5 with Denver. Great. Number 4 would be Dennis Rodman. Okay. So I guess we're saying with the Chicago Bulls, I guess, because he ultimately led to end up 3 championships. So Jamal Murray, number 5, Dennis Rodman, the formerly AKA the Worm. Man, that man from the Piston bad boy days. Okay, stay focused. That's a great 4 and 5 and 4 right there. I like that. James goes on to say my number 4 would be, yeah, Dennis Rodman. Gotcha. All right, hey, that you know, it's as you look at this and as you look back over NBA history, man, it just so many great memorable moments of how these players have had an impact. Sometimes we think it's going to be the big name that's going to end up making the impact on the league, but sometimes it's the Jamal Murrays, it's the Dennis Rodmans, it's the Udonis Haslems that who end up turning the league upside down. And he's still with Miami Heat, even though he's not playing anymore, but just his veteran leadership. And you look at Miami, going back to UD for a minute, when you look at Miami's team here, you had guys like Gabe Vincent. You had who just signed with the Lakers. You had Max Strus, who just signed with the Cavs. You have all these undrafted players that Miami. But look at UD. You have someone who could bring somebody in and speak to and say, hey, look, I have walked in your shoes. I know what it feels like not to be called by a team, and you got to just basically put in the work with the hopes that you will get the opportunity to make the most of it. He's my number 4. I'm telling you. Let's get to number 3. Number 3. Who is my number 3? It is the Diesel. Shaquille O'Neal is my number 3 free agent who turned the league. And man, did he turn the league upside down when he left the Orlando Magic to go to become a Los Angeles Laker. Now, in the beginning, he didn't, started winning championships. He struggled. They ended up having coaches like I think Dale Harris, and I forget who the other coach was. And Shaq was hearing it. He was hearing it and saying, he can't win the big one. He's putting up these numbers, but he can't win the big one. He even had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar saying he can't win the big one. It's nice what he's doing. But when Phil Jackson came and the Lakers made some additional moves, Shaq began to be Shaq, the big Aristotle. And as a result, he ended up having 4 NBA final appearances. Now, when he was with the Magic, he only had 1. But with the Lakers, he had 4 NBA finals. Of course, he lost to the 2004 Detroit Pistons. Of course, we know this. Detroit basketball. Okay, I digress. But when they three-peated, he ended up winning 3 championships with the late Kobe Bryant. And can't forget my man Glenn Rice from University of Michigan. And he ended up becoming a major key player because they ended up trading Eddie Jones and Eldon Campbell, and they ended up getting Glenn Rice. Glenn Rice ended up doing some major work. Kobe Bryant ended up tweaking his ankle in game 2 against the Pacers, and Glenn Rice began to do some major work in that season, but then Shaq ended up closing the door, and as a result, winning 3 championships, being finals MVP 3 times. He's my number 3. Who is your number 3? Who is your? I would love to know. Let me know in the chat who's your 3 who you feel that has really made an impact on the league and turned the league upside down. We're talking about 5 free agents. As free agency is slowly coming to an end, it got me to thinking, with this class of free agents who have either re-signed with their teams or signed with a new team, who's gonna be the Steve Nash? Who's gonna be the Udonis Haslem? Who is gonna be the Shaquille O'Neal for the 2023-2024 season? Man, I'm hyped. I'm excited. All right. Our number two, Mr. Kevin Durant. And man, depending on how you feel about this, depending on your feelings about this, him leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder and having that Hamptons meeting in Long Island, New York, Hampton, with with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr, former general manager Pop Myers, Kevin Durant ends up leaving the Thunder, who almost beat the Warriors in 7 games, comes to a 73-9 team, and it's just like, you talking about stacking the deck. You're talking about turning the league upside down. Oh my gosh, did he turn it upside down? And as a result, he ended up with the Warriors, him and Curry. Sometimes you get players that join new teams and they're talking about, oh, we got to find out who's going to be the alpha male, who's going to be the one who's going to be the closer, who's going to be the main person, who's the face of the team. Kevin just wanted to come and play. Kevin just wanted to come and play and put in the work. And as a result, Golden State ended up having, with Kevin Durant, 3 NBA final appearances. When they ended up winning back-to-back, 2 times NBA championship, 2 times finals MVP. Man, he tore it upside. People still talking about this free agent signing. People still talking about it. And that's the type of impact that I want to see from this free agency class. Who's going to be the Kevin Durant in this coming season who signed? Who's going to be the Kevin Durant? Who's going to end up making an impact on their team like Durant did? Now, in fairness, there ain't nobody in this NBA class that got Kevin Durant's talent. I'm not trying to say that. But what I'm saying is, when you come to a new team or re-sign with a new team, can you impact your team that way? Because that's what makes NBA basketball exciting. That's what makes it exciting. We jump back over to James here. He says, Ray Allen, I like this. When he teamed up with the Boston Celtics. Yes. That is a great number 3. That's a great number 3, that he definitely made an impact on signing with the Boston Celtics. You can't forget Kevin Garnett as well. But as much as people want to say about Pierce and Garnett, Ray Allen just does not get enough. Jesus Shuttlesworth, my man from He Got Game, he don't get enough love. I tell you, he just don't get enough love. James goes on to say, I had Shaq my number 2 and KD my number 1. Oh, okay. Great minds think alike. Yes, sir. We think alike. I want to say good evening to my dear sister Florence Donald from Equip Institute, live stream queen productivity, joining us here on the NBA Sports Talk. We're talking about 5 NBA players you feel that have signed through free agency, that have turned the league upside down, impacted, brought championships, won MVPs, man, and just turned the culture of a team and a league around. That's what we're talking about this evening here on Sports Talk. So that's Kevin Durant. So then the question becomes, who is number 1? Man, I'm going to give me some sound effects. Sometimes when you're watching ESPN or someone in their programs, they go number 2, and then they go number 1, number 1. Who's my number 1? My number 1 is going to be Mr. LeBron James. When he signed with the Miami Heat, first of all, let's just think about the decision for a minute. The decision when my man said, I'm about to take my talents to South Beach. Who in the history of NBA basketball since LeBron has done the decision? Some people feel a little negative about the decision, but for what it was at that time, it was must-see TV, and it was Jim Gray breaking the news. It wasn't Woj, Adrian Wojnarowski, when you're giving a Woj bomb. It wasn't Brian Windhurst. It wasn't Mark Stein. It wasn't David Aldridge. These are all good NBA reporters and analysts, but it was Jim Gray sitting down with LeBron, and LeBron says, I'm taking my talents to South Beach. And then we all know the parade and them all coming up out of the stage. And, man, for that moment, even though I'm a diehard Detroit Piston fan, I couldn't help but root for LeBron. And I wanted to see Chris win a title. And, man, it was special. So as a result of him signing, he ended up making 4 NBA final appearances. Up to that point with Cleveland, he only made 1 with Cleveland, and he got swept by the Spurs. But he ends up going 4 times. Of course, he has to collapse with Dallas, duly noted. But after that, whatever him and Wade said to one another after that loss, man, the alleys and the oops just came everywhere. And they were just must-see TV. And LeBron wins not 1, but 2 MVP championships with Dwayne Wade, with Chris Bosh, with UD, with Mike Miller, with Mario Chalmers. Can't forget my man Ray Allen, who came around on the second one. LeBron ends up being Finals MVP back-to-back. And I think his free agent signing basically was like a seismic shift to let the league know, because up to that point, who were the teams that were a threat to LeBron and to the Heat? Well, certainly before that, you had, because Allen was with Boston before signing the second round, Allen and Pierce and Garnett and Perkins and them, it was Boston. You also can't forget our Pistons, our bad boys. You had Billups, you had you had Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace. So you had the Pistons. So trying to come out of the Eastern Conference Finals, out of the East, was no cakewalk. And even Dwayne understood this. Bosh understood this. So when these guys came together, and they united together, in my opinion, they formed the Justice League. They formed the Justice League of the NBA. There was no Robin on that team. You wasn't calling Chris Bosh Robin. You were simply calling Chris Bosh. You could call him either Green Lantern. You could call him either Aquaman, whoever you want to call him. Dwayne Wade was Flash, and you had LeBron James as Batman. And you could, and you had UD, who, or if you want to call them the Avengers, they were the super team that everyone, unfortunately, all gets rubbed the wrong way when you talk about putting super teams together. But that shows you the type of impact that LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and the Heat had on the league. Who is your number 1? Let me know in the chat. Your number 1. If you're getting great value out of this discussion, this episode 3 of NBA Sports Talk, click that like button for me. Hit that thumbs up. Share this on your favorite social media platform. And oh yes, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, to this new YouTube channel that we have here, please subscribe to the channel so that you will be alerted when we go live with our next episode. You will be informed. Let me just go over here to the comment section. We did that one. Yes. James says, yes, LeBron, as polarizing as it was, he made a difference. Yes. You got to give the man his due. And even when he ended up signing with the Lakers and everything, maybe his approach was different in how he moved for his free agency this time with the Lakers. It was a little different, but man, when he left Cleveland, I mean, think about this. Who he, you know, James, he had fans burning his jersey. He had fans burning his jersey. People were heartbroken when he left Cleveland. He was heartbroken. And then you can easily make a case when he leaves Miami, comes back to Cleveland, show you the type of impact a free agent signing player should have on a team. He comes back to the team he left, and he wins a championship. Go figure. Go figure. He wins another championship. And so that shows you and me with free agency, if you do your homework, you know, the Tan Gilberts, the Mickey Aristills, and the Pat Rileys, and I forget who the Cavaliers general manager was at the time he signed and go back to Cleveland. But if you do your homework, man, you end up signing the right players to be a part of your team. You're going to end up having a team that's going to impact the league, that's going to turn the NBA upside down. And you end up lifting up the Larry O'Brien trophy. Look, Kevin Durant leaves the Oklahoma City Thunder, comes to the Golden State Warriors, and he's lifting up the Larry O'Brien trophy, not one, but 2 times. That's what we're looking for with this free agent signing. That's what we're looking for. If you're watching us live, let us know in the chat where you're watching us from. Give us a hashtag Team Live. And if you're watching the replay of this 3rd episode of NBA Sports Talk, give us a hashtag Team Replay in the comments section. And be so kind to give me your 5 free agents in the comments section. Who are the 5 NBA? Who is your Udonis Haslem? I realize not a lot of people would have had Udonis Haslem. You know, I even saw one list and people had Tracy McGrady. That's a great free agent signing. Look at the impact. He ended up winning multiple scoring titles with the Magic. He ended up having one of the highest selling jerseys by coming to the Magic. So we're not just talking about from a championship standpoint or from from a winning multiple MVPs like a Steve Nash. You know, sometimes you can end up being a free agent signing and you end up being the ultimate role player that helps to bring a championship to your team. So in the comment section, definitely let us know. So let's go back over here. And so here is my question for you. Question of the day. Who are your 5 free agents that you feel who have impacted the NBA and turned the league upside down? In the chat, as James and others have, or in the comment section as you're watching the replay, let us know in the comment section your 5. And let's continue the conversation. Like I said, this show is not about having the latest takes. This is not a sports show that is about having a bunch of heated debates. NBA Sports Talk is about talking NBA basketball from the fans' perspective. This is the fan show. This is our show. We're not trying to have the hottest takes or have the heated debates. It's about having a show from the fans' perspective. And so that's what we have for this 3rd episode of NBA Sports Talk. We will be back on Sunday, 8 p.m. as we continue to this series. This is sort of a series just on free agency. We want to, look at not just the free agent signings, but look at the impact of past free agencies. We're going to even do a little history lesson on how did free agency end up starting in the first place. How is as much as people get excited when it's time for free agency and people flock to their televisions or to their mobile phones to see who signed. How did free agency start? Why was it important to start? Who started it? So we're definitely going to have an episode of that on that as well. Let me just see here if we got any other comments, and then we're going to get on out here. So let's go back in the day. The first free agent, the Big O. Yes, sir. See, great minds think alike. Oscar Robertson helped lead the Milwaukee Bucks. Look at you. Win their first title. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you. I'm surprised that wasn't your number one, James. I'm surprised that wasn't your number one right there. Oh, man. Great man. This man's a historian. He's a historian. Yes, sir. The Big O. But so we want to talk about the history of free agency and more. So I hope you're willing to definitely put us on the car. If you can't watch the actual viewing of it, but just listening to NBA sports talk, if you're working out in the gym, if you're in the office, or if you're just going for a nice little walk, put us on and listen and enjoy some NBA sports talk. So that's about it. NBA sports talk has now come to that point where we're going to close this out. Hey, if you missed the first two episodes, definitely check out our first two episodes on free agency, the preview of free agency, the reaction of free agent signing, and now this third episode. So you're caught up to date, and we'll definitely get into more episodes on free agency. And plus, we're excited. Summer League is going on. We're going to keep our ears and our eyes open for Damian Lillard and what's going to be up with James Harden. So we'll definitely keep up with that going on. But do me a favor, unlock the door, let the women and children out. NBA Sports Talk is now off the air. We'll see you on Sunday evening. God bless.